Okay, time to make things a little bit awkward by opening the episode with an admonishment that maybe you shouldn't actually watch the episode. Yeah, here's the thing. If you're experienced with Schlocktober or the Let's Amusingly Discuss a Bizarre Old Movie genre of internet video in general, you know the assumption is that these are fairly silly, often somewhat disposable films that you're expected to have seen if you're watching this, or you won't mind experiencing first as abbreviated joke fodder before you see the whole thing because maybe it works better that way. And the majority of the time, that second part is mostly true. Even though I do generally try not to ever put anything on here that isn't fun to watch on its own, if you're into that sort of thing on some level. This week's movie is a little different though. 1989's Parents is probably the closest thing to an actual good movie in this year's crop of 5. It's still right on the line, treading that well-traveled late 80s path of using schlocky horror movie tropes for the purpose of satire while also being a schlocky horror movie for real. But I'd argue that the actually a good movie part overall wins out, and one of the reasons why is the way it gradually builds to an escalating series of plot revelations, which, by the very nature of this show, I kinda have to give away. So I'll just say this. It's not a particularly difficult movie to find and see anymore, and if the one-line pitch of Get Out but for nostalgic baby boomers sounds like an appealing movie at all to you, maybe give it a watch on its own first. Everybody else, here we go. Directed by Hollywood jack-of-all-trades actor Bob Balaban, Parents is set in 1954 and concerns a suspiciously sitcom-perfect all-American family moving to a new suburb, told primarily from the perspective of their 10-year-old son Michael. Mary Beth is the mom, Randy Quaid is the dad. And if you ever needed to be reminded that this guy was at one point a really great character actor, he does such a good job slipping into the role of so ordinary, something must be wrong 50s dad guy.
There's one dark place that we have to be very careful in. Do you know where that is?
That even now, it's easy to forget that everyone knows Randy Quaid turned out to be an actual crazy person. And actually, is he still at large? Like, are the cops still chasing that guy and his wife or whatever around the US-Canada border? I feel like I kind of lost track of that story. Anyway, little Michael is having a tough time of things. He's afraid of the dark.
You're not scared of your room, are you?
It's dark.
He has nightmares. He says weird stuff at school and he gets into trouble. He can only make friends with other weird kids.
Where are you from? I'm from the moon. Huh?
But mostly he spends a lot of time quietly observing the adult world and finding everything about it frightening and suspicious.
I'm so proud of you, Mr. Supervisor.
What are they doing? Changing. They change when they're alone. This iced tea is from Long Island.
So the main gimmick here, I assume, is somewhat obvious. Grown-ups in the grown-up world are scary and mysterious is a generalized childhood sense memory that a lot of people share, the overriding sense that something is sinister going on in the spaces you're not supposed to go, the conversations you're not allowed to hear, and the social situations you're not going to be a part of has been the fuel for plenty of childhood POV scary stories. But the 50s setting and the filmmakers all being of relative age to have been roughly in Michael's shoes in this era naturally means that Parents isn't planning to stop with remember feeling like your parents were kind of scary or weren't grown-ups in general kind of scary when you were a kid.
How many times have I told you? Early morning is Daddy's special bathroom privacy time.
But instead plays Michael's ever-increasing suspicion that something just ain't right about the adult in his life as a none-too-subtle metaphor for the then-soon-to-be Woodstock generation's real-world awakening to the sickness and corruption in the soul of suburban Americana itself. In other words, whatever is or isn't going on in Parents, we're meant to understand that the real monster lurking in the closet here is conformity, McCarthyism, the military-industrial complex, etc.
It's good to watch. But you know what? Other people are watching you. At school, at home. Maybe even in the bathroom.
So in addition to the general being a kid is just scary stuff, we also get isn't Dad a little too disciplinarian?
You're scaring him.
Am I? Oh, well, mister, you scare me too.
Isn't Mom a little too into the housework?
It was a mistake moving here.
Ow! Michael, get out of here.
What does Dad do for work at the chemical company again?
Take your standard jungle outpost. Our planes fly over and drop a concentrate of this stuff.
And then what happens?
Your first light rainfall, 48 hours is jungless mulch. You drop the pellets a week before monsoon and presto.
The obligatory suggestion that puritanical 50s attitudes about hiding the realities of sex and sexuality from children made them regarded as something frightening and alien when they did encounter it and thus messed them up.
Thirsty.
You're doing up.
It's okay. You're not scared, are you? Don't be afraid.
And a lot of attention gets given over to, boy, American suburbia sure was conditioned to eat a garbage diet back then, huh?
What are we eating?
Leftovers, honey.
Leftovers from what?
From the refrigerator.
We had leftovers every day since we moved here. I'd like to know what they were before they were leftovers.
Well, before that, they were leftovers to be.
I'm not artificially stretching the build here either. Parents really does play more like a dramatic satirical thriller than a shocker with a slow build to what's really going on, before Michael even gets a coherent handle on what he specifically thinks he's supposed to be afraid of. Of course, once that is out in the open, he does what would typically do the smart thing and immediately tries to show his school's social worker evidence that something is wrong at home. It doesn't go well.
Michael, are you ready to behave? I've been watching you, Michael. You're an outsider. You're not like them. You're like us.
And yeah, this is pretty much the end of the movie. It's hard to imagine this premise getting made today and not dropping the mom and dad are cannibal serial killers surprise in the middle of Act 2 and turning the rest of the film into a sprint to Act 3, but Parents remains committed to the methodical, dread-building pace all the way through. And even when it gets there, the final reveal that our big idea scenario is basically Leatherface gets his shit together and moves to the suburbs, the play is for the realistic danger less so than absurdity like you might expect.
I'm sure you'll acquire a taste for it. Your mother did.
I learned to love it.
You made the little bastards!
Parents is a pretty fascinating relic of its moment, though it's easy to see why it didn't connect on original release. It's a hard sell without giving away the game, which the advertising of course very much did. And interestingly, its approach to the 50s satire angle avoids the cartoonish overstatement popular in similar fare like Cry Baby or Hairspray in favor of a more matter-of-fact realistic approach. It feels very much like Balaban and screenwriter Christopher Hawthorne are working through some real dark stuff in their own memories, rather than just riffing on pop nostalgia. The result doesn't fully come together and certainly wasn't a crowd pleaser back in '89, but today it remains one of the more unique horror films of its era that a lot of people still haven't seen, so definitely give this one a look. I'm Bob, and that's The Big Picture.
Okay, yeah. Hey guys, this is me, Bob, here at one of our current work locations, where, among other things, currently at work on new episodes of The Big Picture, and since it's almost October, working on this year's Schlocktober. This intro should be appearing in front of re-released episodes of classic Schlocktober. I believe the 2018 season, either season 9 or 10, was previously available as a compilation. Going back through the playlists, realized that this season, which was one of the last or next to last ones that was on the second volume of Escapist episodes, was in the compilations, was not re-uploaded as part of Big Picture Classic previously, so we're rectifying that. The compilation episodes, very good for my traffic numbers, thank you very much. Not necessarily great, I realize, for people, fans, viewers, who are just looking to watch one episode or link to one episode. Use as an example, say, hey, here's this one episode where a movie was talked about, check this out. So, fixing the fact that these specific 4 or 5 episodes were not in single form on the channel, getting up. I recognize that not everyone is the biggest fan of the regular, semi-regular re-uploads of not previously available or not previously remastered material. I understand. I also hope that fans and viewers can understand our perspective, that we need to get as much of the original material up on the channel as possible, because otherwise it's sitting on some other channel where someone else is getting ad revenue off of something that I did, that we produced, that we now own, that should be coming back to us. And speaking as someone who's had to go out and basically hunt down old uploads of my own material to get back, I want to have as much of my stuff in one place as I can. The lineup for Schlocktober this year, I'm not going to reveal ahead of time because we generally don't reveal ahead of time. I'm very proud of what we're working on this year, and I'm very proud of a cool announcement that I'm planning to make at the towards the end of Schlocktober this year that I think people are going to be very happy about. Continuing to push to get more new material out, get more reviews up. Like I said, we've been still producing the show out of this location, other locations, trying to get this whole operation back up on its feet. Thank you from the bottom of my heart again to everyone who supports the Patreon, who shares the Patreon with their friends, continues to watch this content. I know that many of us are rebuilding things that fell apart during the whole plague situation. It's been tough. So to everyone who is still helping us get this out and helping me put really my life back together, thank you so much. Schlocktober is coming. Until then, I'm going to try and get these remastered 2018 episodes up at least once a week in September while getting other content out. Looking forward to it. I love autumn. Love this time of year. And thank you all so much.